Hi guys, welcome to this session on Microsoft Excel. In this module, I want to have a quick look at basic macros, how to create simple macros. So on this first screen, you can see that I have 4 buttons with little descriptions there. So I'll just show you this. If I click on that one, it says move, it just moves the cursor down. That one says red and blue, makes it blue, and the text would be red. And this one, if I stay on there, if I click cut, we'll select that cell, and then paste, we'll paste that cell. So they're all macros, very simple macros to move things around and format cells in Excel. The next one, Excel Speak, is a little bit more involved. I need to turn the sound on. So when I click this check file button, it should read out
not safe to close account, not balanced, check figures.
So it's just reading out what's in this if statement here. The next one is a budget example. So there's a button that says import Jan budget figures. I've just clicked that and it brings them in. Then you type in the actual figures like so. Just making these up. And then when you've done that, you paste those figures and then you import February's budget figures and you do the same. And then it's the same for March, but I won't bother doing March. Then what you do at the end is you click on the total figures and it brings them in and gives you a percentage on there. So basically all the buttons are doing is copying and pasting the figures onto these sheets. And then the quarterly total is just summarizing those 3 sheets with the formula, and then it's copying and pasting them and bringing them back. So basically it's just a very simple copy and paste macro. And the macro exercises, which we'll do in a second, we'll just go through a few different options. So going back onto the first one, this basic move macro is as simple as this. To create a macro, you need either to go to the view tab and macros, or if you've got the developer tab, you've got them over on the left there, it's record macro. So I'm just going to record myself changing the color. So record macro, it asks you for a name. I'm going to call it color, and it's in this workbook, so it's available in this workbook. If you want this to be available for other workbooks, you need to save it into this one, personal workbook, but this workbook will be okay. The difference is these buttons are obviously in this workbook, so it would work for this workbook if you created buttons within this file. But if you wanted to put a button up the top here, you would have to select the other option so it's available for any workbook. But that'll do for now. Clicking OK. So it's recording what I am going to do. So make it yellow. That's all I'm going to do. Stop recording. And then with the developer tab, you've got options to insert buttons, which is what I want to do. So there's a button. Click the button. You draw the button. And then you find the macro color and you assign it to that button, and then you can rename that color. Spell it right. Obviously, if you're in the US, you spell it your way. You click color, wherever you click, it will make it that color. Now, there is an option when you record a macro to use what's called absolute referencing. So it's on relative referencing and absolute referencing. So use relative referencing. It says here what it means. If I just point to it again, use relative referencing so that macros are recorded with actions relative to the initial selected cell. For instance, if you record a macro in cell A1 which moves the cursor to A3 with this option turned on, record a macro, running the macro in J6 would move the cursor to J8. So it's not on by default. So if I put this on and just record another macro, let's start in J1. So I'll put that on and then record the macro. and call this what can I call this? Move. Okay. Alright, there's already one called move. I'll just overwrite that one. No, I won't. I'll just rename it moves. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is click there, and then I'm going to move down 2 cells to there and color that yellow. And I'm going to stop the macro. I'm going to create another button. I won't bother naming this button. So moves. Okay. Now when I click that, it should just go down the cells I did. Wherever I click, it will go down that many cells. So whereas this first one, this one, wherever you click it does the color. This second one, if I start there, it'll just jump down the 3 cells that you did jump down when you've recorded it, like so. So 2 different options. It's totally up to you which one you do. So that's creating a button on the actual sheet. I've totally messed this up now. But to put a button up the top here, you need to do it slightly different. So I'm still going to record a macro, but I'm going to add it to a button on the quick access toolbar at the top. So what can I do for this one? Let's do record. I'll take this off. Record macro. I'll call this format. So I'm going to mess about with the format. So this one is going to be in the personal macro workbook. So it's not just going to be tied to this file. Okay. So now I'm going to do Control B, Control I, Control U, and make it yellow. Yellow. And then that'll do. Stop the macro. Now, I need now to go and add that macro to the quick access toolbar from more commands. And you need to go to where it says popular commands and then macros. And then find your macro, which are called format. Now, because I saved it into the my personal folder, you have the word personal in front of it, so that's the one there, format. Add it across. You can change that symbol to a different image if you want. So I don't know what I'm going to put there. Let's just it's yellow, isn't it? So let's do that one. So it's going to look like that, and then OK, and then it's on the ribbon, although it's not yellow. But if I click it, it should make that yellow, and if I start typing in there, it's got all the formatting in there that I want. Now if I create a new file, that should still work as well. Now it would work if you did it the other way at the moment, because both of these books are still open, but if I closed Excel down and rebooted Excel, that button would not work unless I'd saved it in my personal macro folder. Just close this down. So that's the 2 different ways of doing buttons. So the top way, where the one I've just done there, is obviously something you would want available in all your files, whereas the ones with these buttons is just where you want it available in this file. Now, I've already shown you these ones as examples. Let's have a look at what this macro exercise file is asking us to do. So create a macro that will insert the date in any cell. That's the formula. So you're basically recording yourself typing that formula in. So record macro. I'll call this date, if it'll allow me to call it date. I don't want it in my personal macro book, just in this book. Okay. Okay, I've already got one there. Put an S on the end of it. Okay. So now I'm going to type equals today, which is the function for the date time. Pressing enter gives you the date time. Stopping the macro. Now I will add that to it. It says at the bottom there, add buttons for each of your macros. So I'll just do that. Add a little button. And this one's going to be dates, that one. Okay. Change the name. Dates. And then click, and then it'll just put the date wherever you click. Now if you want to reassign a macro, you can just right click on this button and then assign macro, and you can just pick a different macro. You don't have to redo the button again. So that's that one. So create a macro that will change the format of a cell to red, bold and underlined. Well, we've just done that one, but I'll do it again. I'll call it format 1. You can't have spaces when you're naming these macros. It'll come up with an error message. You can use underscores, but you can't have spaces. So Control B, what was it? Underline, Control U, and font red. That's that one. Stop the macro. So again, I'll just draw one more button. You'll get the idea. This is going to be called, I forgot what I called this. Was it colour? No, it wasn't colour, was it? It was red. Yeah, that's it. Obviously you need to use a name that you can remember. That is not it. That's the one I did before. So I've totally forgotten what name I used for that. Have a quick look. Format 1 didn't I use? Format 1 I did, yeah. So now, yeah, that's the one. Okay, so the names need to mean something to you, so you've got some idea of what you called it. And create a macro that will place a border around the cell and colour the background red. So these are all pretty similar. Record macro. Borders, I'll put an S on it. So now you go into border and font red and stop. And I'll just reassign that. Borders, assign macro, borders, okay, and then click, there's the border, click, type, there you go. And that is it, that's the last one. Now if you use what we're doing by recording macros is basically creating some Visual Basic code, which you can actually do, but if I just do Alt F11, which will get me into the Visual Basic window, you can actually see what the recording of the macro has done. That's the quarter the total one, this one that I was in before. So sometimes you might make a mistake or it comes up with an error message. You can have a quick look at this. Without knowing how to do Visual Basic, what it will do, it will highlight, if there's something wrong, it will highlight that there's something wrong. It will be yellow and it'll tell you where it is wrong. So it could be something as simple as a spelling mistake, like that bit there. Instead of first quarter, it could be quarters, and then you would be able to highlight that, or it would be highlighted. You'd better fix that and then save this, and then it would be fixing that macro. Now this is very, very basic stuff, guys. I understand that, and there's a whole array of things you need to do when you get into this level to do macros and then into Visual Basic proper. But it's not for this session. I'm just going to close that down. We're just focused on how to do basic record macros and create a couple of buttons. Now when you use these macros, guys, you have to save this workbook as a macro enabled workbook. So when you go File Save, you need to select this option. I've already saved this, so I need to save as. So it says there, look, macro enabled workbook. So normally it would be on the top option. You need to change it so it's on that option, otherwise these macros won't work. Just go back and back to this screen. And that's the end of this session. So I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for your time.